For a year and a half, I lived in this apartment in Astoria, Queens, with a hardcore drunk and a hardcore druggie. My lease had ended at the other place I had lived in Astoria for a few years, and I was searching for a new place to live, and I had the Craigslist search saved so I could see exactly in my price range what I was looking for. I checked this every single day. I saw a lot of bad places. As I walked up to this place where I would live for a year and a half, I thought, this seems pretty good. I'm a very superstitious guy. There was a slab of wood near the door, and right before I walked in, I even knocked 3 times. I went in, and I met one of my roommates. The other roommate either wasn't there or didn't reply when he knocked. I would soon learn that the roommate who met me was the drunk roommate, and the roommate who wasn't there when I went to see this place was the druggy roomie. Knocking on the wood served me well because I got this apartment. It was on a quiet, tree-lined street. I was so excited to move in here. Pretty soon, though, I started realizing just how much my drunk roommate would drink, and I started realizing just how much hard drugs my druggy roommate would use. The drunk roommate smelled like beer very, very often. One of my first warning signs that he might be quite a drinker, this new roommate of mine, was when I was coming home from work one day, and I had a friend over the other night. We had a 6-pack. One of us had 3 of them, and one of us had 2 of them. I was thinking, man, I can't wait to get home and drink that last beer. I came home, and it was gone. It wasn't in the fridge. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll start labeling everything. Another time, soon after, I had 2 labeled beers left in the fridge that I was looking forward to drinking at the end of a long day, and those were gone too. I didn't bring it up with him. I am very much about picking my battles in a roommate situation, but I started to realize that something was up. I would be shocked at how quickly the glass and plastic and cans recycling would just pour up, almost overflowing. We would have to take it out and put it next to it to wait for Sunday when we could put it on the curb. As for the druggy roommate, at first I thought he just had some kind of cold of some sort. He would be blowing his nose often, using lots of toilet paper in the process, which I would inevitably end up purchasing more of. But soon I put 2 and 2 together that probably that's 'cause he did a lot of coke the night before. One day in particular with the druggy roommate, I heard a thud on his bedroom floor when I was in the kitchen. I saw him stumble out of his room, look around as if he was an alien who landed on a planet that he had never seen before, looking at the dish rack as if he had never seen a dish rack in his life, not even seeing me in the room, stumble back into his apartment and boom, hit his mattress again. The most notable thing that the hardcore druggie ever did was he woke me up loudly talking to his friends at 5 a.m. right outside my bedroom door. I opened my door and I told them to keep it down. He looked at me as if I literally wasn't even there. When I got up the next day for work, he was in the living room with these 3 other guys, and they were writing on pads of paper as if they were studying for a history exam or something at 8 o'clock in the morning on a work day. And later he told me that they had all taken some bad ecstasy and they were trying to journal their way out of the bad trip they were having. But this story is more about the drunk roomie. One night, my girlfriend and I were fast asleep at 3 a.m. when, boom, my bedroom door opens forcibly, hitting the wall as it opens. Wakes both of us up. My girlfriend shoots up out of bed and yells, "Who's there?" in this panicked voice that I never, ever, ever want to hear out of her again. It's my drunk roommate. And he's in the process of unzipping his pants and was probably 2 seconds away from pissing all over my bedroom floor when my girlfriend, screaming, stopped him. "Oh," he says, "I thought this was the bathroom." I grab his hand and I escort him into the bathroom. Soon after, maybe about 20 minutes have passed when I get a text message sent from his bedroom apologizing for the entire scenario. Now, the drunk roommate, he liked me when he wasn't drunk. Not that he didn't not like me when he was drunk, but we saw eye to eye in the day-to-day of the apartment, talking to the landlord, cleaning stuff, upkeep, dealing with why is the Con Ed bill double charging us. But the druggy roommate was just completely out to lunch. He really didn't care about any of that. He literally was just drifting through life. And I did not like the druggy roommate. And the drunk roommate also didn't really seem to like the druggy roommate either. A large part of that was that the druggy roommate was, from what I gathered, thousands of dollars behind in rent. A few days after my drunk roommate nearly pissed all over my bedroom floor, he comes up to me and he says that he's going away for a month to rehab. On the last day of the month, the day before he leaves, we have a very appropriate parting before he goes to rehab. I'm headed out for the night, and I see him taking out the recycling. And it's a clear bag, just like it's supposed to be in New York City. It is a clear bag filled with beer cans and beer bottles. As he's taking out the remnants of all this alcohol that almost entirely had been drunk by him, I stop and I wish him luck. And I say, "Stay strong in there." He gets back from rehab a month later, and the first few months, the recycling is starting to look normal again. Soda cans, plastic containers of food. But soon enough, it starts filling with beer bottles again. At first I'm thinking, oh, that's Tecate. I'm pretty sure that I bought a 6-pack of Tecate. That has to be my beer cans. Then it would be Yingling. I would think, I think it's the druggy roommate. He must have had some friends over, and they must have had a case of Yingling, which explains why there's so much Yingling in the recycling. And eventually I realized that he had fallen off the wagon. A few months later, our apartment gets robbed. The night of the robbery, I was the first one home. I went to get my 5-year-old MacBook, and it wasn't there. In the panic, realizing my 5-year-old MacBook, my car basically, the most expensive thing I had ever purchased in my life, was gone, stolen by someone who was probably gonna flip it for $250 to $300, which killed me to think of it that way. I texted the drunk roommate, the more responsible of the two, and told him that we were robbed. And then I sent more text messages on top of that. And I say that I think our roomie, the druggy roommate, might have robbed our apartment. And I did have probable cause. He was high half the time, and he was way behind in rent. And the drunk roommate did have $2,500 in cash stolen from his room. I didn't have the heart to tell him how insane it was that he even had that much cash in there in the first place. But I didn't know if that was going to lead to some kind of conversation about not trusting banks, and I just didn't want to go there. Turns out, the druggy roommate didn't rob our room. The reason I found out that our druggy roommate hadn't done it is that he had been out of town taking a week-long vacation in California, which is, of course, everybody knows, the exact thing that you do when you are thousands of dollars behind in rent. The cop that night told us that the perpetrator popped out our kitchen window, popped it back into place, cleaned out whatever he could grab from our rooms, and then went out the back door, leaving it unlocked. 2 days after the robbery, I get confronted in the kitchen by the druggy roommate. I'm heading to work, and he says to me, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" I sigh deeply, and I say, "Yeah, what's up?" He tells me that our drunk roommate got plastered the night of the robbery, and he showed him the text message where I said that I thought he robbed our place. The druggy roomie lays into me. "How dare you think I robbed this place? Is that who you think I am?" I could have said to him, "Well, you're high half the time. You don't give a shit if the bathtub is cleaned or we got double charged in Con Edison and you are thousands of dollars behind in rent," as I notice his brand new designer jeans he was wearing. But instead, I play the diplomat. I don't want to have a screaming match before I go work an 8-hour day. I just say to him, "No, I was drunk on panic, just like he was drunk on alcohol when he showed you that text message. Don't take it personally. I'm sorry." The funny thing about us getting robbed is we were 2 months away from being done at that apartment. The place was a mess. It sounded like it was raining behind the bathroom wall sometimes, when really it was just a pipe leaking down behind the wall. Every now and then, say if you were microwaving something and turned on the lights, we would have to screw with the circuit breakers to have electricity. The place wasn't up to code in more ways than one, and our landlord wanted to bulldoze it all and start over again. So in my second to last day at this apartment, the drunk roommate tells me, "Hey, David, I lived here for 12 years, and you were the best roommate I ever had when I was living here." This really touched me. It was a really kind, sincere moment. I could tell that he really meant it, and that it meant something to him telling me this, and it meant something to me too. One of those moments that's so sincere and pure that it's almost embarrassing hearing something that nice from somebody. And I thanked him, and it was a really nice moment. Next morning, our last day at the apartment, it's 11 a.m. I knock on the drunk roommate's door to drop off the key. The door opens. His face looks kind of pinched. Like either he drank a hell of a lot last night, or it was 11 in the morning. Maybe he had started at 9 or 8 or even earlier. Or maybe he didn't even stop from the night before. He had just kept going. And on the heels of what he had said to me just the day before, I handed him the key and I said to him very, very sincerely, "You know, it was really nice getting to know you. he just looked at me and groggily said, "Yeah," and slammed the door in my face. I do not live there anymore.
That was Don't Let the Door Hit You by David Lawson. I'm most familiar with David Lawson from his solo show called Insomnia in Space, which is a show about how he dealt with chronic insomnia by becoming obsessed with outer space. And that's been performed at the People's Improv Theater and at Dixon Place and at the So Low Fest in Philly. He has another one-man show called VCR Love about porn, and that's published by Original Works Publishing. And he's also a host of not one but two shows. He hosts the Astoria Bookshop Storytelling Show, which is the second Tuesday of every month at, not surprisingly, Astoria Bookshop in Astoria. And another show in Astoria, Fast Track, which is a comedic storytelling show, and that is at QED, and that is the fourth Tuesday of every month. Let's see, I premiered my solo show, Generator, a disastrous love story, at Darkfest in July, and then had another performance in early August, and that went really well. Oh, there goes an airplane. The moment I sit down to record an outro, the airplanes start coming. So anyway, Darkfest was actually a blast. I shared the bill with another storyteller who I'm sure you know, Nelson Lugo, who combines magic and storytelling to create magical storytelling. And we were also with an ensemble led by a guy named Jacques Boudreau, who's, I guess, the musical director at the Tank. And it was just a really gratifying experience and very growth-inducing. I felt like I became a different kind of performer as a result of doing a solo show. And it forced me to address a lot of weaknesses I had and also helped me strengthen the strong things I had already. And I had a great director in Michelle Walson, which helped a lot. She helped me turn something very rough and abstract into something realized that I was happy with. And she also was very good at talking me down off a ledge several times. And speaking of solo shows, I'm starting to get very busy doing a whole bunch of interviews for an upcoming storytelling festival that's coming up in October. It's called Storytelling 2.0, and it is a festival created by Nissa Greenberg and put on by The Tank, who also hosted Darkfest. That takes place October 8th through 11th, and it's 4 shows, 5 storytellers. 2 of them are collaborating on one show. And it's called Storytelling 2.0 because it's a focus on pieces that use technology in an interesting way. So I'll be conducting interviews with the people who are putting on shows for that and releasing those about a month from now in late September as a special podcast of interviews. And then there's an even bigger festival coming up, also produced by Mr. Nissa Greenberg, also presented by The Tank, although this one's at, I've suddenly totally drawn a blank on the name. It's Standard Toycraft in Brooklyn. And that's called Solo Week. That's in December, early to mid. And it's huge. It's 10 shows. So I'll be very busy with interviews starting, I guess, next month or October probably. And again, I'll probably release those interviews as a series of podcasts in November. So, storytelling's getting pretty interesting. Alrighty then, this has been Modern Stories Mix, Episode 7. I'm your host, Julie Threlkeld. Usual, if you like the podcast, let other people know about it, please, either through social media or by going to iTunes and leaving a nice review. I've resurrected the long dormant newsletter, and I'm trying to send that out every 2 or 3 weeks now, so subscribe, and if you want to promote something, send it to me at julie@modernstories.com or using the forms on my website at modernstories.com. And last but not least, if you want to know what shows are going on, there's a calendar at modernstories.com. And you can also list your shows or your workshops or your classes or your solo shows at modernstories.com. Just use the form. Thanks. I'll talk to you next month.